this is Carla from Written Word Calligraphy, and welcome back to the Written Word Calligraphy channel. I am starting this new series on calligraphy business so that I could share with you some of my tips and tricks on how to, for example, talk to your invitation client. As some of you guys are just starting out in your business and possibly thinking of becoming a wedding invitation designer, this is one of those videos that you'll really need to watch because it talks about what you talk about with your invitation client, what to do and what not to do. I go way more in depth in this in my course, Calligraphy Business Kickstarter, which is opening up in August of 2021. If you're interested in that, I'll put the link in the description below, or you can go to writtenwordacademy.com/CBK for Calligraphy Business Kickstarter. Okay, so today we're going to talk specifically about the invitation client. So usually when I talk to my clients, I personally prefer to do a Zoom meeting or some kind of video call. That way I can see them and also kind of interact with them. It's also nice to be able to put a face to the name. Most of the time people reach out just via email or Instagram. And so it's kind of nice to be able to see the interaction in real life, and they can also get to know me a little bit better there as well. And usually in these meetings, it's either the bride or with the groom or with the mom. It depends. Sometimes everybody is there too. Just like I had a recent one where I had both the parents and from both sides of the family as well as the couple. So it was a really cool large meeting, but it was still like a very comprehensive meeting where everybody got to share a little bit of their opinion, but the bride and groom still had their final say. So what do you want to talk about in these meetings, in these calls where you kind of get to know each other? And the goal of the call really is for you to work on a proposal or a quote for them at the end of it. So in order for you to get to that stage of providing them with the proper quote, you'll need to get the right information so that you can build this quote that reflects what the client really needs. So the first one is get to know your client. So I detail about exactly what I find out from my clients in my invitation call guide in the course. But just to give you an idea, I like to get to know a little bit more about themselves, like their story, like where they're from, like what they do. I also like to make sure I know both their names, and I put that in the proposal, not just the bride. I know a lot of people, most weddings really the bride has the one inquiring for a lot of these vendors, but it's really good to be able to pull both of them together because they're both still part of the wedding and both their inputs are important. So getting to know your couple will really help you understand the style that they're looking for in their invitation. It also helps you understand like their work style, how they like to express themselves. Those different elements really come together with regard to coming up with a design, especially with your style. Personally, for myself, I love integrating or choosing calligraphy styles that reflect the wedding. I also like to choose the style of illustration based on how the cohesive color palette would be like for them. And so for the client, whenever they realize that you're not just there to take their orders, that you're actually there to build rapport with them, like network with them, like understand who they are, it really helps build that friendship almost. And what you want is for these people to really love you as well, not just your work, but also just like really enjoy having an open conversation with you. And building this right at the beginning will also help you in the future as you go through like your iterations of designs or revisions or emails. Then you can tell very quickly what their personalities are like, and that way you kind of reduce a bit of that misunderstanding. So first one is to get to know your couple. So for the second one is to really find out all the details you need in order to get that quote and to provide the client some options. So I want you to remember that typically when people reach out to you for wedding invitations, it's their very first time doing this. Of course, I've had clients who, in their second or possibly third marriage, but most of the time it's in their first realm, and so they don't know exactly what goes into the process of wedding invitations. They're not sure about all sorts of paper options and things like that. So they might not be clear about what they want. They might have images of like ideas they've seen on Pinterest, but it is your job to be able to guide them through it. So, asking questions like how many people are going to be at the wedding, how many households will be needing invitations, explaining that, not every single, person in the wedding needs an invitation. It's just like the household or the families, or at least the groups of people that need it, that kind of stuff. Really showing yourself as an expert will also help the trust factor in your conversation and in your relationship with this particular client. And of course, after listening is very important in this conversation. You want to be able to provide options that they haven't even thought of. So for example, like if they're really, really not liking having people to mail back their reply, maybe you can introduce them to a details card instead that has these details in there. Or, if they are doing multiple pages of a details card, maybe we can propose to them that we can make it into a booklet or an accordion, perhaps something to keep it like really good and cohesive, and providing them ideas that you think they're going to love. So for example, there's this one reply that I did for one of my clients that had 4 different reply cards. And so what we ended up doing was we had a long accordion reply card that we would cut off if it wasn't included for their particular person. And so that idea really sold the client. She felt that that was very unique and in terms of an idea, and she loved that I was able to share that expertise and tell them what was doable, what was not. And also we added like a piece of ribbon to it to tie it all together, and she just thought that was like ingenious, and she felt that that was one of the reasons she decided to go with me, because she felt that she was with an expert, that she knew that I knew what I was doing, I had the creativity to match it up, and also that she loved my calligraphy style. So that was really good in terms of an example of being able to provide options that people are going to love, and that will help build that trust factor with them. Because for me, for example, most of my clients are not actually local to me, so I've never met most of my clients. And how do I build that rapport from just a phone call? And all of these little elements of like getting to know this person and providing them with options and giving them, for example, samples so that they could physically see some things, like the color of the envelope, for example. And that way they can kind of make it real, or like it's like a big reality to some people to hire somebody just online, but it certainly is doable, and it's happened to me too. And of course, one of the most crucial steps in terms of like talking with your invitation client, number 3, is to explain the next steps and explain like the timeline, expectations, because yet again, as I mentioned, most of our clients, this is their first time, this is their first rodeo. They don't really know how long it takes. So for you to explain, okay, this is the amount of time it normally takes for us to do the design. This is the amount of time it takes for us to print. And then once it gets back to the print from the printer, how much time it gets to be assembled. People sometimes imagine that they're the only clients in the world, but they're not, right? So we even if in their head, we could just print this all in at home and assemble them all like tomorrow. That's not normally the case. We have to plan it out and kind of rejig our schedule in order to accommodate this particular client. And we never know. Sometimes there's delays in the whole process as well. So we just never know exactly, how it all works. So it is your job to explain to them, okay, after this call, you're going to receive a quote from me. How long does that take? Or and then the design process, like how many revisions do you provide? Like how long does it take for you to make revisions? That kind of stuff. Like what are the expectations that they need to do? Like, are you using a program like a project management system? You need to be able to explain that to them as well. And that way they won't have like a sticker shock when the process, you send them your quote or it takes you a long time to send them the invitations, for example. Just to give them all of those details. I know it might feel very much like like a lawyer explaining the stipulations, but if you know come up to it where you're trying to make sure that this person knows what's coming up next, will really help them you know, reduce the stress and anxiety of like what's happening, are things coming, or like what's going on. I mean, typically on my end, usually I'm the one waiting on for the client, but it's also good for them to know that if they don't follow the timeline, that there would be delays and that we might not be able to get the invitations out by the day that they want it to be. So those are my, you know, 3 cents on how to talk to your invitation clients. I hope you guys learned some things from this video. If you guys have any questions for me, you can reach out on Instagram or write in the comments below. My IG account is Written Word Calligraphy. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in another video.